Hello, Grow. My name is Beth Cunningham, and I'm the children's pastor here at Church of the Highlands. And I wanted to take a few minutes and just update you guys on the things that we're learning here at Highlands about this generation of children, and honestly to address some significant changes we have made in our elementary ministry this past year. You know, being part of many conversations around the topic of Generation Z, we are learning a lot of things about how God really is moving in this generation of children and youth, and honestly the things as churches that we perhaps need to reevaluate and perhaps realize that God is doing a new thing. And so for us, we began a journey of really educating ourselves and asking ourselves, what does ministering to this group of family and specifically to these groups of children look like in this day and age? And there's some things that we really discovered that actually caused us to radically shift how we are producing a service for elementary students on Sundays here at Highlands. And the biggest thing I would say, the biggest takeaway that we've discovered from research is this statement that we are hanging our hat on, that children learn best in circles, not rows. And what I mean by that is we really have partnered with some really great ministries that I want to give a shout out to. Our friends at Barna Research and our dear partners at One Hope honestly are leading the way in providing cutting edge research about Generation Z. And essentially what we know about this group of children and this group of students is that they are living in a day of information overload. What I mean is these children, this group, this generation are what we call digital natives. The children in your elementary ministry, the children in your student ministry do not remember life before an iPhone. They have no concept of what it's like to live without constant access to information and without constant access to technology. Now, hear me, that in of itself is not a bad thing at all. But what it has done is produced a generation for the first time in human history that has unfettered access to information all the time. And as churches, we have to begin to ask ourselves that a child can simply look up anything on a device now and get the answer to whatever it is they're looking for. So we have to actually train them in the Word of God very differently. They're not just going to assume that something is the truth because we tell them. They actually, in this generation, have to go on a process of discovery. You know, this is not a new idea. If you go back to the scriptures, we see that when Jesus was walking on the earth, he asked way more questions than he ever gave answers. In fact, he trained his disciples by asking them thought-provoking questions. Even think about the parables and how he taught the people. We're really painting pictures that ask questions that led people to discover the truth. And so we've asked ourselves this question. We now know that this generation of children are growing up in a world where all ideas are equal and there is no truth and things are relative to them. And so we've got to get the truth of the Word of God in their hearts. And it's not going to be as simple as saying, I told you so. So how then do we create an environment where children actually discover the truth? And we have decided, again, children learn best in circles, not rows. What that means is that in 2019, we made the decision to take a very traditional children's ministry service flow where there was a lot of amazing things happening on the stage, great video content being produced, and 20 minutes of small group at the end, maybe 15, somewhere in that range. And we said, you know what? We're going to take this hour and 10 minutes that God has given us, and we're going to set the whole thing up in circles. Now our elementary children are in a small small group the entire service? Is there still compelling teaching? Absolutely. Is there still engaging praise and worship? Of course, we need these children to experience God's presence, but we have decided to take all of our teaching, all of our content, and really begin to ask ourselves, how many questions can we ask these children? And these questions aren't coming from a stage. They're coming from passionate leaders sitting in circles with kids, opening up the Word of God and asking the type of questions that lead children to discover the truth.